She was a bright young woman pursuing her dreams.
She was very smart.
She wanted to help people.
She wanted to assist those who were in need.
But would she also need saving?
She didn't come home that night.
She's not a person to go missing.
Everybody tries to keep hope.
The investigation will uncover a slew of suspects.
She had been texting an old love interest.
She was really having beef with the baby mama.
It's time for the games to stop. He couldn't pass the polygraph.
That's what we're trying to figure out. The lies are hard to keep up with.
But the truth will be far, far worse.
I couldn't do an animal like that.
She was begging for her life.
You really have to be sick in the head to do something like this.
It's a devil in disguise.
April 6, 2018. It's Friday afternoon in Appomattox, Virginia, a quaint town just outside the city of Lynchburg.
Appomattox pretty much a small town where everybody knows everybody.
If something happens, everybody knows about it.
Which explains why at a little after noon, Lisa Henderson's mother receives a concerned call from her daughter's coworkers.
She got a call from the dermatologist's office where her daughter worked. They were wondering where she was.
She didn't come in this morning.
Her co-workers knew that was not like her, especially when they had just seen her that day before at 5 o'clock.
She didn't call in or anything, and that's not like her.
Sandra Henderson calls her daughter. But there's no answer. So she reaches out to Lisa's boyfriend, Marquis Williams.
She's going to be with her over Marquis' house or be at home.
Hello, Marquis. Have you seen Lisa?
No.
He said, I don't know where she's at. She says she's going to her best friend's house.
Okay, I'll check her. Okay, thank you.
But when Lisa's mother calls her daughter's friend, Jamaica Robertson,
Jamaica? Is Lisa with you?
she doesn't know where Lisa is either.
I talked to her mom. I was like, well, you know, she didn't come to my house.
At that point, she became extremely concerned.
My sister called and said, hey, we can't find her.
My mom was like, she not answering my phone call. So I called her and I went straight to voicemail.
I was praying that maybe she just wanted to get some air, just leave for a little bit.
But by 7:30 that night, after hours of trying to reach her, Lisa's mother can no longer deny that her daughter has disappeared.
When it started getting dark, I like, something around, so I went to the police station to file a police report.
Lisa Henderson had lived in Appomattox, Virginia for most of her life.
Lisa was born in Charlotte, North Carolina. We moved up here in 2005. I didn't want to move, but we had a lot of crimes around in our neighborhood, and I just wanted to keep them safe.
In Appomattox, Lisa grew up a country girl.
So a little bit tomboyish.
She's pretty much one of the guys. We'd always be outside. She throwing the football with us.
She played sports. She rode a motorcycle.
She went fishing with her dad, and she really loved her daddy.
Sadly, Lisa's father passed when she was only 16.
He had diabetes, and we saw it coming years before it happened.
It was very tough for her to go through her father's death.
My sister was always the one taking care of him, giving him his insulin shots.
As a young girl, she took on a lot of responsibility.
She also found her calling.
Her dad's getting sick. She really started figuring out what she wanted to do.
She wanted to be a nurse because of my dad.
Since she was good with what she did with her pops, she started feeling like she can help others.
After high school, Lisa started working in a local dermatologist's office as a medical assistant and enrolled in nursing school.
She was very determined.
She's definitely kept her head in the books.
But she soon met a young man who had her head in the clouds.
Nice bike.
You see the rest of them?
Wow.
He had like 3 or 4 motorcycles. She was infatuated with that.
His name was Devin Pearson.
They seemed like they was getting close to settle down, but some situation happened that they went their own separate ways.
Although just what happened remained a mystery.
She just didn't want to talk about it. She like shut down. She just started being quiet, started staying in her room a lot.
Eventually, Lisa regrouped and focused on finishing school.
She really poured herself into school, like just doing something all the time to keep busy.
Including taking an additional job to support herself at a Lynchburg distribution center.
That's how she met Marquis. And she just fell so in love with him.
Marquis had recently split up with the mother of his 2 children.
She talked highly of him. She talked about his kids. She talked about how she did care about him, that he really cared about her.
Friends figured that Marquis was more of a rebound relationship rather than anything serious.
She really didn't talk about the future, about them or anything.
Instead, Lisa was focused on her own future.
She was working at the dermatologist's office. She was trying to go get another certificate under her belt.
She was serious about her career and she was serious about what she wanted to do in life.
But now, on the evening of April 6th, 2018, Lisa's bright future is suddenly shrouded in darkness.
Her family and her friends hadn't received any contact from her and began to worry about her whereabouts.
My sister went to the police and said, we need to find my daughter. There should be a missing person report out right now because this is not like her, and we know that there's a problem.
Hoping to get a line on Lisa's whereabouts, detectives with the Campbell County Sheriff's Office get in touch with her cell phone provider.
They conducted an emergency ping of her phone.
Pinging her phone would be a course of action that one might take when trying to locate a missing person.
Unfortunately for detectives, the ping fails to give the phone's current location.
Which most likely meant that Lisa's phone was either powered off or the battery was dead.
However, detectives aren't left empty-handed.
They were able to tell us that last location of the telephone.
Last time her phone was pinging and showing activity was in Campbell County on Sage Drive.
It was hitting a tower where Marquis Williams, her boyfriend, lived at the time.
In April of 2018, 22-year-old Lisa Henderson was well on her way to becoming a fully qualified nurse.
She wanted to go as far as she could go. She was very smart.
The family was very excited about her accomplishments and what she was becoming.
She was destined for success. She was a person who we knew was going to take the family to the next level.
But now Lisa's mother has reported her missing. And detectives with the Campbell County Sheriff's Office have traced her last known location to the trailer belonging to her boyfriend, Marquis Williams.
So that was certainly a good place for us to start.
Before I had him come in, I wanted to know as much about him as possible, so I checked him out as much as I could.
Detectives don't find any record of arrests.
Once I was satisfied, I made that phone call. He was very cooperative on the telephone, wanted to help in any way he could.
All right, thank you.
Early the next morning, Marquis comes into the sheriff's office to give a formal statement to detectives.
It was more of a fact-finding effort, basically just verifying when he had last seen Miss Henderson.
I was just fishing for as much information as I could get, hoping that he may have some answers for us or give us a direction to go in.
Mr. Williams, how's your relationship with Lisa?
We're good. My sister was always happy. She said she was always happy with him.
He maintained that everything was fine with the two of them, that there were no problems.
When was the last time you talked to her?
Thursday night.
He told us that him and Lisa and a friend of his, Felix Jefferson, had been together at his place on the night of the 5th.
What time did she leave?
She left at like 11 or so.
I'm gonna head out, okay?
All right, honey.
Bye.
All right.
That was the last time he saw her.
Did she say where she was going?
Yeah, she said she was going to stay at Jamaica's.
Marquis said that after Lisa left, his friend Felix stayed all night at his place and that he had driven Felix home the following morning.
Okay, we'll be in touch.
Felix Jefferson was basically his alibi. So as soon as we finished that interview, we were off to find Felix Jefferson.
The search takes them into downtown Lynchburg.
We made phone contact with Felix. He wanted to meet us in downtown Lynchburg, which he did on foot.
Felix agreed to meet with detectives, but he didn't seem eager to talk.
Felix was very tight with his information. I had to pry that information out of him.
He also claims not to know much about Lisa.
He said that the only times he had talked to Lisa was in the presence of Marquis.
She was at his trailer Thursday night, right?
Yeah. Well, hung out for a while.
He did confirm that he was at Marquis' house on the 5th, that Lisa was present, and that at some point in time, Lisa decided she wanted to leave, and she went out and left.
What time did she leave?
I don't know. Sometimes before midnight.
That was the same thing that Marquis had stated.
Thanks, man. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Free leave.
All right.
With Marquis and Felix an apparent dead end, detectives issue a be on the lookout for both Lisa and her vehicle.
Publicizing her disappearance was very important. Getting a description, a picture of her vehicle out so that citizens could be looking for it or help locate it.
Then, seeking more information, detectives turn to Jamaica Robertson, the friend Lisa was supposedly going to stay with on Thursday night.
She confirmed that she had been texting to Lisa on the night of the 5th.
She texted me until I let her know I was about to go to sleep.
Based on the timeline, those text messages lined up with when Lisa was at Marquis' trailer.
Lisa was supposed to come back to Jamaica's to stay with her that night.
The details all corresponded with what Marquis and Felix had already told detectives.
But according to Jamaica, Lisa never showed.
The next morning, when I still didn't hear anything, I started to really worry. So I actually went to Marquis' house by myself to see if she was there.
Jamaica didn't find Lisa, but she did find Marquis.
So you haven't seen Lisa?
Thought she came to your house.
He said she left from here and was coming to your house. I was like, well, you know, she didn't come to my house. Like, did she go home?
I don't think so. Her mama called a while ago and said she didn't show up for work.
He told me he was going to go looking for her, but he had to go buy his child some Pampers.
Appreciate that.
Jamaica's story seemed to confirm what Marquis told detectives, but something she said did raise a red flag.
You ever met his baby mother?
Yeah, their relationship is kind of rocky because she wasn't comfortable with Lisa being around the kids.
Her name is Danielle Whitman.
There was some bad blood between Danielle and Lisa.
She had a lot of problems with Danielle.
She came over there and the baby mama was there. They had words.
But now detectives want to know, did Danielle and Lisa end up having more than just words?
They're both trying to fight for this man.
You know how girls are. They jealous. So, you know, things gonna happen.
Violent crime in more rural areas is on the rise, and in 2018 surpassed the national average for the first time in a decade. In the state of Virginia, the smaller town of Lynchburg has a violent crime rate of 3.85 per 1,000 residents, triple that of Virginia Beach, a city more than 4 times its size. Detectives in Campbell County, Virginia, have learned that Lisa Henderson has a long history of trouble with a woman named Danielle Whitman.
Danielle had 2 kids with Lisa's current boyfriend, Marquis Williams.
She was also living with his mother.
Something ain't right about that picture. If she's staying at the house, he's messing with her.
But did Marquis and Danielle's ongoing relationship have something to do with Lisa's disappearance?
Lisa and Danielle had kind of had words before.
To try to find out exactly what may have happened between them, deputies bring Danielle Whitman in for questioning.
I did conduct an interview with her at the sheriff's office. It did not last long.
She wasn't very helpful or cooperative.
I don't understand why they saying that it's baby mama drama. I don't know anything.
She was bitter about the whole situation. She didn't like talking with me at all.
She also admits to not liking Lisa.
I believe it was just a jealousy of who she was as a person.
Could have been that she didn't want my sister around her kids.
Whatever the reason for their troubled relationship, Danielle denies having anything to do with Lisa's disappearance.
One of the most important things for you that I need to know from you is where you were at last Thursday night.
I worked from 10:30 to 7:15. Yeah, I went home. I lived with his mother.
She said she got home from work a little after 7 that night, and Marquis was there watching the kids.
And then he left when I came in, like a few minutes after I came in.
And where did y'all go? And then what?
Get the kids baths, get ready for bed.
Danielle's also adamant that she didn't go over to Marquis' trailer later that night.
A lot of times, Lisa will go to Marquis' house, the baby mama will come over there. And they'll get to arguing.
When he said, I was asleep. I went to bed early.
Did you talk to me more that night?
He called me in the middle of the night, check on the kids.
So how long did that take?
Not long.
She didn't give detectives any information other than that call was only around 30 seconds or so.
After that, the detectives let her go. But they're not quite done with Danielle.
There was some animosity there, and she was still obviously close to Marquis. And his mother, she was entwined in the family. So all those things make her a person of interest.
It was entirely possible that Danielle was lying. She could have been there waiting when Lisa left Marquis' trailer Thursday night.
That was certainly discussed, and the thought ran through our minds.
Hoping to get a better picture of what happened Thursday night, detectives subpoena phone records for Lisa, Marquis, and Marquis' friend Felix.
We throw a big blanket when we do phone records, just in case we need to see who's talking to whom and match up phone calls.
Felix Jefferson's phone records show that he was telling the truth when he said his only contact with Lisa was through Marquis.
There were no phone calls between the two of them. When we looked at the phone records, there was no relationship whatsoever.
Lisa's phone records also confirmed that she was texting with her friend, Jamaica Robertson, on Thursday night.
Those text messages took place while Lisa was there at Marquis.
However, Lisa's phone records also reveal that Jamaica wasn't the only person she was texting that night.
The investigators identified another number, which belonged to Devin Pearson.
Devin was an old boyfriend of Lisa's.
Lisa was hurt about the breakup. She was really hurt about it.
Do the text messages suggest some sort of reconciliation?
Maybe instead of going over to Jamaica's, Lisa decided to meet up with Devin instead.
Detectives only know one thing for sure.
That was the last activity on her phone.
When detectives search Marquis' phone records, they show that he'd been trying to locate Lisa after she'd gone missing.
He was blowing her phone up, wanting to know where she was.
But more important for detectives, Marquis' phone records also reveal that Danielle had been lying to them.
Danielle claims she had only talked to Marquis for about 30 seconds, but the records show that the call was more than just a quick check-in.
We don't know what those conversations entailed, but we do know he was talking to her for 20 minutes.
Obviously, it was now important to find out what they were talking about.
However, before detectives can follow up on either lead, there's a new development.
Detective Dudley.
Someone called police and said they had spotted Lisa's car abandoned in Lynchburg.
All right, thank you, bye.
We had put out, of course, a BOL, be on the lookout for that car.
Once we found that, I knew something was wrong. That's what I'm saying. She is not going to just dump her car.
On Sunday afternoon, detectives searching for 22-year-old Lisa Henderson receive a tip about the location of the missing woman's car.
At this point, it had been more than 48 hours since Lisa had disappeared.
That car was found on a Sunday. It was located over in the city of Lynchburg. Someone who lives in that area called the Lynchburg Police Department.
News of the discovery is no comfort to Lisa's friends and family.
That's when I started to really worry. And I felt like at that point, something bad had happened to her.
You weren't going to leave that car on the side of the road?
I was thinking maybe somebody must kidnap her or something.
This could be a situation where foul play is involved. Her vehicle's unattended. She hadn't reached out to her family. She didn't keep her appointment with her friend. All those things didn't bode well.
After locating Lisa's car, detectives have it towed to the police impound lot for evidence technicians to search.
We were looking at any of her personal property that might be in there, or any fingerprints or biological evidence.
The search yields few clues for detectives, but it does offer some hope for Lisa's family.
There weren't any traces of blood or any other evidence of foul play.
Man, I tried to stay optimistic. Even when they found a car, I'm thinking sometimes people just go away for a few days.
With no leads from Lisa's car, detectives bring Marquis' ex and the mother of his children, Danielle Whitman, in for a new round of questioning.
Since her interview, detectives had learned that she lied to them.
Did you talk to me more that night?
He called me in the middle of the night.
So how long did that take?
I don't know.
Rather than the 30 seconds she claimed, her phone call with Marquis the night Lisa disappeared had actually lasted 20 minutes.
You say you talked on the phone for about 30 seconds.
Yeah. He said goodnight to the kids.
Well, here's the thing.
When I confronted her that the information she was giving me was not true, and showed it to her through the phone record.
Can you explain that?
She ended the interview and said that she would be obtaining an attorney.
I want a lawyer.
Danielle's reaction didn't exactly convince detectives that she had nothing to do with Lisa's disappearance.
However, she's not the only person detectives are interested in. After talking to Danielle, they also bring Devin Pearson in for an interview.
Devin was the man Lisa had been texting with shortly before she disappeared.
He and Lisa had once been romantically involved some time ago. And I'm just going to cut to the chase. What I'm really interested in, were you having sex with her? 7 years ago. Okay. Had y'all recently reconnected, or have y'all been talking the whole time?
Well, we reconnected.
He told me that they had been texting and talking a little bit, but that's as far as it went, that there were no immediate plans for them to be together or to start a relationship. It hadn't gotten sexual yet, but y'all had seen each other face to face?
No, sir.
They were communicating by text or phone call now.
He had text with her up until around 11 p.m., the same time that the text messages had stopped with Jamaica. They stopped with him as well. And he had not been able to get in touch with her since then. You were talking to her. I just want to know the nature of those conversations.
She mentioned that she had got back with the guy she was talking to.
Had she ever mentioned whether or not that Marquis would have a problem if he knew y'all were talking or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
He thought that Lisa wanted someone to just listen about how she had been thinking about breaking it off with Marquis.
And now in hindsight, Devin thinks his last messages from Lisa might have been a cry for help.
I believe she was trying to reach out, but at that particular time, I didn't know.
Right.
Detectives are initially skeptical of Devin's claim.
If Devin had something to do with Lisa's disappearance, he would have had every reason to point the finger at Marquis.
But then after the interview, he lets detectives look through his phone and read Lisa's texts.
He was very forthcoming. The context of their text was about Marquis and the fact that Lisa did not want to be with him anymore.
Just like that, Devin had given Marquis a motive.
If Mark had found the text messages that Devin was exchanging with Lisa, he'd have probably been upset and angry.
He was this quiet guy, but behind closed doors, he might have been that bad guy.
Detectives are determined to find out.
Called Marquis to come back to the sheriff's office and ask him to take a polygraph.
It's not admissible in Virginia, but it is a tool that we are able to use to get to the truth of matters in a lot of cases.
He agreed to take the polygraph test, so we brought him in the next day. He kept things pretty much the same as before.
He just maintained his story that Lisa left, and that's when the last time he saw her.
Do you know for sure what happened to Lisa Henderson?
No.
Do you know where Lisa is now?
No.
They're asked that same question several different ways, and he said that he did.
But the polygraph says different.
He came up deceptive during that polygraph examination. You failed this test, which tells me that you know where she's at.
Detectives investigating the disappearance of Lisa Henderson have reason to suspect her boyfriend, Marquis Williams, knows more about the missing nursing assistant than he's been telling.
When detectives brought Marquis in for a polygraph exam, the results suggested that he had been lying to them.
He's being asked, do you know for sure where Lisa is? He said that he didn't, and his results seem to indicate that he did.
Although when detectives confront Marquis with the results, his reaction takes them by surprise.
He did break down and cry at some point after that polygraph, but it wasn't talking about Lisa. He was crying, telling me that he had never been in any trouble.
I'm telling you everything I know.
You're not telling me what happened to Lisa.
I don't know.
Okay? He ended that interview and he asked for an attorney.
With Marquis refusing to talk, detectives descend on his trailer with a search warrant.
Detectives were looking for traces of blood or any other indications of foul play.
Detectives don't find any blood, but they don't come away empty-handed.
We did seize multiple firearms from his residence.
There was, I want to say, 18 or 19 guns taken from the home.
He was there during that time, and he never asked about Lisa, where the investigations were going.
When we brought all the guns out, he addressed me and said, make sure you take care of my babies.
And as far as detectives could determine, he'd acquired all of them legally.
We ran all the guns, and I don't recall any of them being stolen weapons. So we didn't have anything to hold them on.
The search a bust. Detectives decide to take another run at Felix Jefferson.
Well, I know I'm being lied to, so I need to find out why. My thinking is that he's probably going to be the weaker link.
At first, Felix refuses to crack.
He basically, at that point, was maintaining the same statements he had given before.
But the detectives keep pressing.
I thought it was time to change a strategy with Felix and go from interview to interrogation. But here's the thing. It's time for the games to stop. Either you're going to tell us or you're not.
Because again, there's a difference between a suspect and a witness, Felix.
That helped, I believe, to get Felix to think it was time to start talking, to try to start serving himself. Marquis is going to dump all this on you, right? He's going to distance himself from it as much as he can.
He tell you how he killed her? He choked her.
Felix told detectives that he didn't witness the crime, that he had just helped Marquis get rid of the evidence.
When he finally started admitting it, he did admit that they took the car over there and dropped it off, that Marquis drove the car and that he picked him up. Then they went down and disposed of the evidence at the James River.
Felix told us that they threw her keys and her phone into the river.
So where is the body? That's the problem. I don't know. But you know, it's going to be a really big problem for you if you don't direct us to that body.
I did pry very hard with him about finding her body, how important it was for her family, to give her family some relief and at least knowing that she's not, laying out somewhere. That seemed to help a little bit.
You said a lot of different things. Why should somebody believe that you didn't kill her and he killed her?
He was a follower, and he just did whatever Marquis told him to do. Marquis needed help taking that car down to Lynchburg, so he did it. Marquis needed help disposing of her body, so he did it.
Finally, Felix admits that he knows exactly where Lisa's body is.
So tell us where we can go get that girl. It was in Concord.
He's saying that he had went with Marquis to dispose of her body in the wooded area off of Plum Branch Road in Campbell County. He knew roughly how to get there from Marquis' home.
And he took us to that area. We walked that area for quite some time.
And a few hundred yards off the main highway, they find Lisa.
The body was not covered. She was laying there clothed, but no attempt to hide the body.
It looked like she'd been out there probably 5 days.
However, the body is still in good enough condition for the detectives to realize that Felix has been lying to them.
She wasn't strangled.
This was something completely different.
Her body was riddled with bullet holes.
That evening, I was going to try to take a nap. Or soon I laid down, I felt something brush over me. It was like a cool air that came across me. And I laid down, and probably maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes, her cousin Toya had called me, and I kind of figured what she was going to tell me when I picked the phone up. And I felt that breeze was her letting me know before anyone told me that she was found.
Felix Jefferson has just led detectives to where he and Marquis Williams dumped Lisa Henderson's body in the woods outside Lynchburg, Virginia.
He's stating that Lisa had been strangled by Marquis, but that's certainly not the case here.
She had been shot. You could see bullet holes in some of her garments she was wearing, and some of her injuries to her head, scalp, and face. Gunfire had caused some of it.
And we found evidence beside her shell casings consistent with that.
We picked up 8 or 9 shell casings.
While the coroner and CSI arrive to process the scene, officers tackle the grim task of informing Lisa's family their agonizing wait is over.
The sheriff had came to our house. He went straight to the point. He was like, "We found Lisa."
Oh no, not my baby.
My heart just dropped. He said, well, Lisa was murdered. And from that point, I just holler, scream, and I just lost it. Everybody lost it.
I didn't want to believe it.
I'm thinking this cannot be true. This is not us. We cannot be going through this.
While Lisa's family struggles with the tragic news, detectives haul Felix Jefferson back into the interrogation room and confront him about his lies.
We were able to look at him and say, Felix, she wasn't strangled. There were obvious gunshot wounds there. That's when his story evolved to, well, yes, Marquis did shoot her.
I ain't asking no questions. Why? I don't know.
He never could give us a reason of why Marquis wanted her dead.
He found her texting and talking to somebody that night. That's what happened. Okay.
Hold on for a sec. Hey, come on, let's go talk.
He said that sometime during the night of the 5th, that Marquis and Lisa went to Marquis' bedroom, closed the door.
It was likely what happened inside Marquis' room tied in with what Lisa's ex, Devin, had told them.
The text that she was texting that night, that she said she didn't want to be with him anymore.
I believe that he read those text messages. I believe that that triggered his anger.
I just think he made the decision that if she won't going to be with him, then she won't going to be with anybody.
Felix says he had no idea what Marquis was planning when the couple emerged from the bedroom.
Let's go for a ride. You good? Yeah, we good.
Where?
I don't know. I just feel like driving. Come on.
Although based on what Felix says, during their drive, Lisa could sense something was up.
This the place.
He said that there was some talk between the two about their relationship.
You remember that time that we went to the beach? That great place that we stayed at?
Well, I think she was trying to make Marquis think of the good times.
She's trying to connect with him in an emotional way.
My take on that is she was begging for her life.
But Marquis' mind was made up. Felix says that when he got out of the car, Marquis gave him a gun.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, no.
Let's go.
No, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
They forced her to go out. They forced her. But she's scared of the dark.
I think she absolutely knew what was going to happen to her.
Why do you keep doing this to me?
I think she probably tried to get away.
Hey, she's in the back.
His statements are, next thing he knows, Marquis is shooting at her, and he starts yelling at Felix to shoot at her also. Felix says he's scared if he don't shoot at her, that Marquis is going to shoot him. So Felix says he shoots once or twice, maybe, and it's not even sure if he hits her.
After his confession, detectives place Felix under arrest.
He may have been relieved in a certain sense that it was out in the open now, and he didn't have to keep looking over his shoulder to see if law enforcement was coming for him.
But what Lisa's friends and family want to know is how soon would they be coming for Marquis?
When I heard that Felix was arrested, I was happy. I knew Marquis needed to be arrested.
When they arrested Felix, I was like, I know Marquis did this.
Yeah, I was like, why y'all won't lock him up? But they need all this evidence.
Most of all, detectives need to corroborate Felix's story.
When detectives got the autopsy report, the findings confirmed that there were 2 shooters.
The autopsy showed 9 bullet holes, and it was shown to be from 2 different weapons.
We have 45 caliber bullet, and then 38, which would have been the 38 revolver used by Felix Jefferson. We're able to corroborate some of the things that Felix is telling us. The pieces of the puzzle were put together. Prosecutor was satisfied.
That enabled us to just go ahead and arrest Marquis.
We went out to Marquis' mother's residence. It was satisfying to place him under arrest.
Marquis' arrest is even more satisfying for Lisa's family.
My mom, that's all she wanted, was Marquis to be arrested. So it was relief.
I was really happy. Just happy.
Unlike Felix, Marquis makes no further statements to detectives.
Marquis Williams thought himself to be smarter than anybody else involved in this case.
Faced with overwhelming evidence, Felix Jefferson pleads guilty to murder.
He got 43 years with 20 suspended. Had it not been for him, I believe this case would have got solved, but it took a lot longer.
Marquis Williams ultimately also pleads guilty.
This could have been a capital case because if you abduct somebody in the state of Virginia, it's one of the qualifying reasons you can get the death penalty. And that young lady was kidnapped and taken to that location. So for him to plea, that was him saving himself.
Marquis was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
For Lisa Henderson's grieving family, it's not nearly enough.
I want him to get the death penalty. He's glad he in jail, but he's still living.
I'm glad he got what he got, but end of the day, it still don't help me. I'm not the same.
It put a hole in my heart.
It's a pain they hope no other family has to endure.
Just cherish and love all your loved ones, man, because you never know. The next day you might not have them.
Don't wait to give people their flowers after they're gone, man. Let them know, like I love you. Let your peoples know.
Vicky leaned in closer, her face lit by the pale moonlight. He wasn't just an agent. He was the son of the man who owned the Zurich Shell Company. He was sent here to investigate his own father's betrayal. The gold didn't come from the Nazis. Jimmy, it came from the Norwegian resistance. It was stolen. Jimmy felt the pieces clicking together, a cold realization that made the pain in his body seem insignificant. The Haldanes and the Wilsons hadn't just been traitors, they had been thieves of the worst kind. They had stolen the future of a nation. Where is the page? Vicky. I have it, she said, reaching into her pocket. But Jimmy, the SUV, they're coming back. They didn't see me, but they're circling the road. Jimmy struggled to sit up. He could see the headlights of the SUV scanning the embankment above them. He looked at the wreckage of his car, then at the dark, vast expanse of the bone field stretching out toward the sea. Go, Vicky, he ordered. Get to the station. Tell Tosh. Tell her the Solstice Group is just the tip of the iceberg. What about you? Jimmy looked at the high beams of the SUV as they crested the hill. He felt a sudden, fierce determination of Viking spirit that had been dormant for too long. I'm a Shetlander, he said, his voice regaining its strength. I'm staying with the bones. As Vicky disappeared into the shadows, Jimmy crawled toward the shelter of a large rock. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his backup radio, the one the poles hadn't reached. He didn't call for backup. He didn't call for an ambulance. He called Cassie. Dad! Her voice came through, sounding small and far away on the ferry. Cassie, he whispered, I love you. And remember, the wind always tells the truth. You just have to know how to listen. He clicked the radio off just as the heavy boots of the pursuers began to crunch in the gravel above him. The hunt was on, but in the bone fields of Shetland, the hunters were about to find out that some things are better left buried. Chapter 21, The Hunter and the Peat. The boots crunched closer, rhythmic and heavy. Jimmy lay flat against the damp earth, the scent of crushed heather filling his nostrils. His shoulders screamed with every shallow breath, but he forced himself into a terrifying stillness. Check the wreckage again. A voice barked a harsh, flat accent that didn't belong to the islands. If he's alive, he won't get far on foot. Jimmy watched the beam of a high-powered flashlight sweep across the underside of his overturned car. He had less than 30 seconds before they expanded their search radius. He knew this embankment. He had investigated a sheep rustling case here 5 years ago. 50 yards to the east, the ground dipped into a treacherous peat bog, the kind that looked like solid earth until you were waist deep in its black, suffocating embrace. He began to crawl, moving with the agonizing slowness of a wounded predator. He used the rhythm of the crashing waves below to mask the sound of his movement. 1, 2, slide. 1, 2, slide. Over there, look at the grass. A beam of light sliced through the darkness, missing his legs by inches. Jimmy didn't look back. He reached the edge of the dip and rolled. He landed in a patch of thick gorse, the thorns tearing at his skin, but providing a perfect screen. I see him. He's heading for the cliffs. Jimmy smiled grimly. He wasn't heading for the cliffs. He was leading them exactly where the island wanted them. He pulled himself up, using a sturdy branch for support, and broke into a staggering run toward the center of the bog. He knew the path a narrow, serpentine strip of slightly higher ground marked by the skeletons of stunted trees. Behind him, the 2 men from the SUV were running blind, their heavy boots thudding with dangerous confidence. Stop! Police! Jimmy shouted, his voice hoarse. It was a bluff. a way to keep them focused on him rather than the ground. One of the men laughed a chilling sound in the dark. You're a long way from backup, Inspector. Suddenly, the thudding stopped. It was replaced by a wet, slurping sound and a cry of pure, primal terror. My leg! I'm stuck! Eric, help me! Jimmy stopped and turned. In the moonlight, he saw one of the pursuers sinking rapidly, his frantic struggles only accelerating the bog's hunger. The second man, Eric, stood at the edge, his flashlight shaking. Don't move, Eric, Jimmy said, his hand resting on his radio. That bog is 12 feet deep in places. If you step forward, you're both dead. Pull me out! Pull me out! The trapped man screamed, his chest now level with the black surface. Eric looked at Jimmy, his face a mask of indecision and rage. He reached for something in his jacket, the blue light device. Tosh, now! Jimmy roared into his radio. The night exploded into light. Not the high beams of an SUV, but the blinding, rhythmic strobes of her police interceptors cresting the hill above. The roar of engines drowned out the wind. Eric dropped the device and raised his hands. Jimmy slumped against a tree, his vision blurring. He watched as Tosh sprinted down the embankment, her gun drawn, her face a mask of professional fury. Jimmy, are you okay? She cried, reaching him just as he began to slide down the trunk. Get them out of the bog, Tosh, he whispered. And tell Vicky, tell her she's a hell of a museum curator. Chapter 22. The Zurich Ledger and the Final Betrayal. 2 days later, the air in the Lerwick station was thick with the smell of victory and strong tea. Jimmy sat in his office, his arm in a sling, watching the harbor through the window. The Hjaltlin had docked in Aberdeen, and Cassie had messaged him, safe, love you, Dad, don't do anything stupid. Tosh walked in, holding a digital printout. Sandy came through. He spent 48 hours in the National Archives in Edinburgh. He found the missing link. She laid the paper on his desk. It was a copy of the original Zurich Incorporation papers for the Solstice Group. It wasn't just Duncan's grandfather. Tosh said the founding partners were Andrew Holdan, Jerry Wilson, and a third man, the silent partner, a man named Hans Thorne. Jimmy looked at the name. Thorne, like Marcus Thorne, the PI. Marcus was Hans Thorne's grandson, Tosh explained. Hans was the one who managed the money in Zurich. But when he died, the Haldanes and the Wilsons stopped the payments. Marcus wasn't here to solve a crime. Jimmy, he was here to blackmail Duncan Hunter for his family's fair share of the stolen resistance gold. Honor among thieves, Jimmy sighed. So Marcus Thorne was killed because he became a liability to the current empire. And the SUV? The men we pulled out of the bog were professional cleaners hired from the mainland, Tosh said. But the orders didn't come from Duncan Hunter. Not directly. The door to the station opened, and Sandy Wilson walked in. He looked exhausted, his eyes red-rimmed, but there was a sense of purpose in his step that Jimmy hadn't seen since the first murder. Inspector, Sandy said, nodding to Jimmy, I have the last piece. He handed over a small digital recording device. I visited my dad, Joseph. He's been keeping something in Mima's old sewing machine. A confession Jerry Wilson wrote on his deathbed. Jimmy pressed play. The voice that emerged was thin and raspy, the voice of a man haunted by the wind, waiting for a day when the island was ready for the rest of the fortune. The recording clicked off. Duncan Hunter didn't order the hit on Thorne, Sandy said, his voice quiet. My dad did. Joseph. He found out Thorne was coming to take the land, his inheritance, away from him. He used the Solstice accounts, the ones he'd been secretly skimming from for years, to hire those men. He wanted to protect Mima's legacy, even if it meant becoming a monster himself. Jimmy looked at Sandy, the grandson of a murderer and the son of a conspirator. I'm sorry, Sandy. Don't be, Sandy said, looking out at the harbor. The truth is better than the lie, even if the truth is made of bones. Chapter 23, The Wind's Secret. The final arrests were made at sunset. Joseph Wilson was taken into custody without a fight. A broken man who seemed relieved to finally be caught. Duncan Hunter was charged with money laundering and obstruction, his glass empire beginning to crumble under the weight of the Zurich ledger. Jimmy stood on the rigid brace one last time. The toxic gas had cleared, and the gorse was starting to grow back over the hole where the cylinder had been. Hattie James was there, too, her collar turned up, a small notebook in her hand. The uni is calling it a civilian-led recovery, she said, a small smile on her face. They're giving me the credit for finding the site. They don't want to mention the drones or the gas. Let them have their version, Jimmy said. The only thing that matters is that Per Lundstedt is no longer a traitor in the eyes of his country. And the gold. Well, the Norwegian government is already making plans to use it for a veterans fund. What about Mima? Hattie asked. She's at peace, Jimmy said. She knew the wind would tell the truth eventually. She just had to wait for someone to listen. He walked back toward his car, a new one this time, though it already smelled faintly of sea salt and old files. He pulled out his phone and looked at the photocast he had sent from Glasgow. A picture of her in front of a massive stone library, her smile bright and unafraid. He started the engine and turned south. Behind him, the standing stone, the twin stood silent against the darkening sky. The bone fields were quiet now, their secrets finally given back to the earth. As he drove, the wind began to moan through the windows, a familiar, restless sound. But for the first time in 80 years, it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like a song of home. And in Shetland, that was all the justice anyone could ask for. Betrayal of the Faithful, a novel based on true events. Prologue, The Weight of a Promise. Trust is the currency of the soul. In the shimmering heat of the Arizona desert, it is as precious as water, a rare commodity that people guard with their lives until they find a well they believe is holy. In the biting winds of a Chicago winter, trust is the only warmth an elderly heart has left when the family has moved away and the bones grow brittle. But trust is also a weapon for those who know how to wield it. A Bible verse can be more effective than a locksmith's pick, and a doctor's white coat can hide a darker stain than any surgical spill. When you tell a man you are doing God's work, he stops looking at your hands and starts looking at the heavens. That is the moment his pocket is easiest to pick. This is the story of two men who traded in the most sacred of commodities, faith. One built a kingdom on the shifting sands of false promises, using the tithes of the faithful to fuel a machine of vanity. The other carved a fortune out of the feet of the dying, turning a profession of healing into a ritual of theft. Both learned, too late, that when the bill for greed finally comes due, it is not paid in gold, but in the blood of the innocent and the shattered lives of those who dared to believe. Part 1, The Mirage in the Desert. Chapter 1, The Architect of Dreams. The year was 1982. And Phoenix was a city gasping for breath under a sky so blue it looked painted. It was a place of rapid expansion, where the desert was being pushed back by sprawling stucco suburbs and turquoise swimming pools. At the center of this transformation stood William Kratz. At 34, Kratz was the embodiment of the New South success. He was a brilliant attorney, a man whose speech was seasoned with just enough legal jargon to sound authoritative and just enough scripture to sound anointed. When he took over the Baptist Foundation of Arizona BFA, he didn't see a nonprofit. He saw a sleeping giant. The Lord doesn't want his children to be poor. Tom Kratz said one afternoon, his voice echoing in the mahogany-lined boardroom of the BFA headquarters. He was looking out at the Camelback Mountain, his reflection in the glass overlaying the landscape. Tom Grabinski, the Foundation's in-house counsel, adjusted his tie. He was a man of shadows and fine print, the perfect technician for Kratz's grand design. The convention expects us to fund missions, Bill, not to play the market. We aren't playing, Tom. We are stewarding, Kratz corrected, turning around. His eyes burned with a quiet, holy fire that made dissent feel like blasphemy. Think of the senior housing we can build, the food banks, the hungry children. We can take the widow's mite and turn it into a mountain of gold. All we need is the capital. And who better to provide it than the people who already trust us? The plan was elegant, daring, and fundamentally broken from the start. They called it stewardship investments. They told the faithful that by loaning their savings to the BFA, they weren't just earning a 10% return, nearly double what the local banks offered. They were building the kingdom of God. Kratz convinced himself he was a visionary. If the real estate market dipped, he would simply wait for God to raise it back up. In the meantime, he created a secret entity, a bad bank designed to swallow the foundation's losses and hide them from the prying eyes of the flock. He wasn't lying. He told himself he was merely managing the timing of a miracle. Chapter 2, The Sermon of the Silver Tongue. As the 80s progressed, the BFAS influence spread like wildfire through the Southern Baptist congregations of the Southwest. Kratz was no longer just an administrator, he was a celebrity. When he walked into any church, the atmosphere shifted. He was greeted like the Pope, a man who possessed the rare combination of spiritual depth and financial genius. The sales pitches were choreographed masterpieces of psychological manipulation. Salesmen, handpicked and trained by Kratz, would enter fellowship halls and nursing homes with Bibles in one hand and brochures in the other. They used the word stewardship as a shield against skepticism. Brother Bill isn't just an investor. A salesman would tell a group of retirees in a humid Baptist hall, he's a prayer warrior with a divine gift for numbers. Why leave your money with a secular bank that uses your deposits to fund things that go against your values? Invest with the foundation. Your interest helps build the kingdom. It's an investment that pays in this life and the next. The numbers were staggering. Tens of millions, then hundreds of millions flowed into the foundation's coffers. The stewardship funds were used to buy raw desert land, speculative commercial buildings, and suburban developments. On paper, the BFA was a juggernaut. In reality, it was a house of cards built on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the wind to change. Chapter 3, The Widow's Mite. In a quiet suburb of Phoenix, Bill and Pat Anderson sat at their small kitchen table. For them, the Southern Baptist Church wasn't just a place of worship. It was their life's anchor. 3 years prior, Pat had faced a life-threatening brain aneurysm. Against all odds, she had survived. In the quiet hours of her recovery, they had pledged their lives and their resources to the Lord. Look at this brochure, Bill, Pat said, her finger tracing the image of a serene retirement community. It says here that our money stays in the community. It builds houses for the elderly. And look at the rate, 10%. Bill, a retired plant manager who knew the value of a hard-earned dollar, squinted at the paper. It's backed by the Southern Baptist Convention, Pat, and it's audited by Arthur Anderson. That's a world-class firm. If we can't trust the Baptists and Arthur Anderson, who can we trust? They weren't greedy. They just wanted to be good stewards. They took their life savings to $100,000, every penny saved from decades of factory work, and moved it into the BFA. They felt a profound sense of peace. They were doing well by doing good. Across town, Robert Shaw was making a similar choice. A car salesman who had found his way back from the brink of alcoholism through the church. Robert saw the BFA as the ultimate safety net for his daughter's future. He put in $250,000, including the $60,000 he had meticulously set aside for her college tuition. For over a decade, the checks arrived like clockwork. The mirage was indistinguishable from reality because the interest was real, even if the money behind it was a theft from the next generation of believers. Chapter 4, The Whistleblower's Burden. By 1994, the internal gears of the BFA were grinding with the grit of 1,000 lies. Kyle Tresh, a young, idealistic attorney and the son of a preacher from Tulsa, joined the legal team thinking he was entering a sanctuary. But the sanctuary was a hall of mirrors. As Tresh began to review the transactions between the BFA and Allo, he felt a cold chill. The prophets were ghosts. When the Arizona real estate bubble burst in the late 80s, the BFAS holdings had plummeted. Rather than admit the loss and face the convention, Kratz had sold the devalued land to Aloha Company the BFA secretly controlled at massive profits. Alo paid with IOUs that would never be honored. It was a classic Ponzi scheme, but one performed in a choir loft. Tresh walked into Grabinski's office, a stack of ledgers in his hand. "Tom, these notes from Alo, they're worthless. This company has a negative net worth of $100 million. We are telling investors we have assets we don't have." Verbinski didn't look up from his desk. Real estate is a long game. Kyle, you're looking at a snapshot. Bill has a vision for these properties. When the market turns, Allah will be the foundation's greatest asset. You just need more faith. Faith isn't a substitute for an honest balance sheet, Tresh countered. The tension in the office became unbearable. Tresh and for staff accountants realized they were being asked to paint a masterpiece on a rotting canvas. In April 1996, they resigned in a block. Tresh's resignation letter was a searing indictment of the foundation's leadership, but Kratz managed to bury it, telling the board that Tresh was spiritually immature. Chapter 5. The Woman Who Fell Out of Her Chair. The year was 1998. And the desert heat was matched only by the intensity of the suspicion gathering round the BFA. D. Grebel, a sharp-eyed CPA with a no-nonsense attitude, was looking at a BFA prospectus brought to her by a worried client. "They want me to mortgage my home to buy more BFA notes," the client had said. Grebel started digging. She saw a line item. $70 million in notes receivable from a mysterious benefactor. It sounded prestigious, but Grebel wanted facts. She spent hours at the Arizona Corporation Commission digging through public filings. When she finally linked Benefactor B to Alo Inc., she looked at ALO's own financial reports. The company was bleeding out, a hollowed-out carcass of failed real estate deals. "They're broke," Grebel whispered to the empty room. "They're totally, utterly stone broke." She literally fell out of her chair in shock. This wasn't just a bad investment. It was a criminal enterprise. She ran down the hallway of her office to tell her partner, "This whole thing is a fraud. They're paying old investors with new money because their main asset is a worthless piece of paper from a bankrupt subsidiary." She called Arthur Anderson 3 times. She left messages that were increasingly urgent. "You must withdraw your audit opinion. You are signing off on a lie." Silence was the only answer. The accounting giant, perhaps blinded by their own fees or a misplaced trust in Kratz's reputation, ignored the warning. It was a failure that would cost them their own existence in the years to come. Chapter 6. The Dust Settles. In August 1999, the mirage finally evaporated. The state of Arizona, armed with the testimonies of Kyle Tresh and the accountants, forced the BFA to stop selling its stewardship notes. The collapse was instantaneous. 3 months later, the foundation filed for bankruptcy. The 11,000 investors, many of them seniors, who had entrusted their entire lives to the church, woke up to find they were holding empty promises. The $600 million owed was backed by barely $250 million in assets, most of it tied up in land that no one wanted to buy at fire sale prices. For Bill and Pat Anderson, the news was a death sentence for their retirement. Bill, a man who had worked 40 years to earn his peace, couldn't stop moving. He went into his garage and carved wooden Uncle Sam lawn ornaments, working half the night to try and claw back the $200,000 they had lost. He couldn't sleep. Pat, their neighbors would say, he was working too hard and worrying too much. Within 2 weeks, Bill suffered to heart attacks. He died shortly after, his body giving out under the weight of the betrayal. Pat was left alone, working as a caretaker for others to pay the bills her safe investment should have covered. Robert Shaw had to tell his daughter that the college fund was gone. He sold his home and took a job at a rental car agency, washing cars in the Phoenix sun. The embarrassment was a physical pain in his chest. I didn't know how to tell her. He recalled, I felt like a failure because I believed a man in a suit who quoted the Bible. Part 2, The Edgewater Healer. Chapter 7, The Bedside Manner. While Phoenix was reeling, Chicago was experiencing its own betrayal of trust. Dr. Ronald Michaels was a fixture in the Edgewater neighborhood. He was the house call doctor, the man who remembered your birthday and knew how you liked your tea. He focused on the elderly patients who often felt invisible to the rest of the world. He would spend an hour in their cramped apartments listening to their stories. He was charming, attentive, and seemingly the kindest man in the medical profession. You're a saint, Dr. Michaels, Mrs. Goldberg would say as he trimmed her thick toenails. Not many doctors care about old feet like mine. Michaels would smile, a warm, practiced expression. Everyone deserves to walk without pain, Martha. But beneath the saintly exterior, Michaels was a man in freefall. His marriage had collapsed. His Lincolnwood home was gone. And he was sinking into a pit of prescription drug abuse and alcoholism. He viewed his patients not as people, but as billing codes to fuel his addiction and his desperate need for cash. He began to write fiction in the form of Medicare claims. Chapter 8, The Benefactor of Greed. Charles Labosco was 80 years old, a man whose body was failing, but whose mind was still sharp enough to recognize a payday. He was Michaels' star patient and his silent partner. Michaels would visit Labosco and perform simple podiatric maintenance. Then he would return to his office and bill Medicare for complex surgeries. 1, then 2, then 10. Over 7 years, Michaels billed Medicare for 351 surgeries on Labosco's feet. It's easy. Charlie, Michaels had told him during one visit, handing him a kickback check. Medicare has plenty of money. They won't miss a few thousand. You just sign these forms and we'll both be comfortable. To the government, Labosco's feet were the most operated on appendages in medical history. To Michaels, they were the fountain of youth for his bank account. Between 1994 and 2001, Michaels billed over $1.7 million, making him the highest paid podiatrist in Illinois. But the government was finally watching. Pete Tyler, an investigator for the Office of Inspector General, started noticing the anomalies. Nobody has 10 surgeries in a month on their toes, Tyler told his team, unless they're growing new feet every week. Chapter 9, The IQ-nurse. Joyce Brannon was 54, a former intensive care unit nurse who now lived in the basement of the Bethany Evangelical Lutheran Church. She was the caretaker, a woman who found peace in the quiet holiness of the sanctuary. She was also a patient of Dr. Michael's, but unlike many of his other targets, Joyce wasn't confused. She had spent decades in hospitals. She knew what a surgical tray looked like. When Pete Tyler and Agent Renee Reyes arrived at her door in September 2001, Joyce invited them in. She looked at the billing records they presented. 70 surgeries on her feet. Honey, Joyce said, her voice clear and resonant. I'm a nurse. I know what surgery is. Dr. Michaels comes here. We have a nice talk. He clips my nails, and he leaves. He has never, not once, performed a surgery on me. She was the golden witness. She was the one who wouldn't be bullied or bribed. When Michaels realized the feds had talked to her, he panicked. He called her, his voice cracking with a manufactured desperation. Joyce, I have family at home. Don't you care what happens to me? If you testify, I'll lose everything. Joyce's response was a testament to her character. You should have thought about that before you did this. Ron, this is wrong. I will tell the truth. Chapter 10, The Chilling Wire. The feds were getting closer. They tapped Micah's cell phone, listening as the doctor's world narrowed to a pinprick of paranoia. They heard a call between Micah's and Charles Labosco, a nervous, whispered conversation that confirmed their worst suspicions. They're asking questions. Ron, Labosco whispered. The man from the government called me. Lycos's voice was a ragged edge of panic and alcohol. Just stick to the script. Charlie, tell them about the tiny incisions. Tell them you're satisfied. Don't let them in. But Michaels was no longer just worried about Labosco. He was obsessed with Joyce Brannon. His Palm Pilot was filled with detailed notes on every agent who interviewed him and every patient who betrayed him. He rated the interviews like movie reviews. Beside Joyce Brannon's name, he wrote, "Interview went poorly." Chapter 11, The Sunday Sacrifice. On Sunday, January 27, 2002, the Bethany Evangelical Lutheran Church was quiet. The morning service had ended, and the sanctuary was empty. Joyce Brannon was in her basement apartment, likely relaxing after a day of service. Maicos had been scouting the church. He had the Sunday service schedule written on a notepad in his car. He had a .22 caliber revolver that he had retrieved from police storage just 3 days earlier after renewing his license. He entered the basement. He didn't come to heal. He came to silence the only witness he couldn't control. Joyce was sitting in a chair, facing the window. She never saw him. He shot her 6 times. In the back, in the head, once at point-blank range. He thought he had silenced the truth. He thought that without Joyce Brannon, the fraud case would crumble. He was wrong. In death, Joyce's testimony recorded in the agent's notes and her unwavering integrity became even more powerful. Part 3, The Gavel and the Ghost. Chapter 12, Paper Mountains. The trial of William Kratz and Tom Grabinski in Phoenix was a master class in accounting forensics. It lasted 10 months, the longest in Arizona history. Over 1 million pages of documents were entered into evidence, a paper mountain that detailed every sham sale and every hidden loss. Kratz sat at the defense table, his hair whiter now, his face still holding that expression of pained righteousness. If the state hadn't shut us down, his lawyers argued, everyone would have been paid. The real estate market recovered. The assets are worth millions now. The state killed the BFA, not Kratz, but the prosecution, led by attorneys who had spent years tracing the money, focused on the moment of the lie. It doesn't matter if the land was worth $1 billion in 2006. They argued. What matters is that in 1996, you told investors you were profitable when you were losing millions. You lied to get their money. That is the crime. The jury found them guilty of fraud and illegally conducting an enterprise. Kratz was sentenced to 8 years, Korbinski to 6. As they were led away, the victims watched from the gallery broken, but finally vindicated. Chapter 13, The Highest Price. In Chicago, the case against Dr. Ronald Michaels was equally brutal. Assistant U.S. Attorney Sean Berkowitz presented the evidence, the Palm Pilot, the shell casing in Michaels' car, the box of ammunition, and the motive. The defense tried to paint him as a broken man, a victim of depression, but the jury saw the preparation. They saw the cold, clinical way he had eliminated his golden witness. He had treated a human life as just another line item to be erased. The verdict for murder was swift. The sentence, death. Michaels was transported to the federal death row in Terre Haute, Indiana. He sits there today. A man who once healed feet now waiting for his own journey to end. Chapter 14, The Shadows of Faith. Years after the cell doors slammed shut, the echoes of the betrayal still lingered. For the survivors of the BFA collapse, the trauma wasn't just financial, it was spiritual. Robert Shaw eventually found a small measure of peace, but he never returned to a Southern Baptist church. He began attending a small, non-denominational congregation, one where the financial statements were posted on the bulletin board every month. I still love God, he told his daughter at her graduation. But I've learned that men who speak for him are still just men. And some men are wolves. In Chicago, the Bethany Evangelical Lutheran Church underwent a transformation. The basement where Joyce Brannon lived was converted into a community center for the elderly, the very people Dr. Michaels had preyed upon. A portrait of Joyce hangs in the hallway, her ICU nurse's cap visible in the corner of the frame. She is remembered not for how she died, but for how she lived, with an honesty that even a bullet couldn't kill. Chapter 15, The Architect's Lament. William Kratz, in the quiet of his prison cell, often stared at the barren Arizona sky through the narrow slit of his window. He spent his days writing long, rambling letters to the board members he once dominated, still insisting that his vision was sound. The market corrected just as I said it would, he wrote to Tom Grabinski, who was in a different facility. We were right. Tom, the world just wasn't ready for a kingdom built on real estate. He never mentioned Bill Anderson. He never mentioned the seniors who were forced back into the workforce in their late 70s. In his mind, they were just necessary casualties in a holy war. He had traded his soul for a balance sheet, and in the end, both were empty. Chapter 16, The Price of Silence. In the deep hush of the Terre Haute facility, Ronald Myko spent his final hours in a state of suspended animation. The charm that had once fooled hundreds of elderly patients had long since evaporated, leaving behind a husk of a man who still couldn't fathom why the world had turned against him. He often thought of the cookies and sandwiches his patients used to give him. He remembered the smell of Martha Goldberg's apartment, the scent of lavender and mothballs. He had truly liked them, he told himself, but his addiction, the pills, the alcohol, the need for more, always more